And it's a beautiful afternoon here in Tel Aviv, and I have the pleasure to host Walt from Oregon Freeze Dry. Walt, good afternoon, or should I say good morning to you?
Yes, it's morning. I happen to be actually in New Haven, Connecticut, working, but I am pleased to meet you and introduce to you, and I look forward to our chat.
Exactly, and so do I. So I was talking to Walt and Andrew, by the way, who quarterbacked this show. I said it's really refreshing for me because we're mostly we've done I think 40 shows in less than 5 months. So we're like the show is on fire. And we have a lot of tech bio and AI and data and cloud, and we have a couple of small molecule companies, but we really welcome the chance to talk to people who are more on the manufacturing side of drugs, which is what
Hmm.
we do. And organ freeze dry is for me, it's really very interesting, a great contrast to all of the tech guys out there that we've had until now. So I'm sure our listeners will be excited to hear what you're doing. So let's start with, my first question to you was obviously is knowing absolutely nothing about freeze dry except that it's used to make coffee. Is tell me about your journey to Oregon freeze dry.
Well, you give me this question, and I'm pondering how to look at 43 years of lyophilization or freeze drying in a broad number of applications, but I have to become more introspective because it there's an intersection of tragedy because my two young sons and I lost their mother to cancer and treatment. That intersects with my background in cell biology, chemistry, and engineering to drive mitigating disease and the treatment of the side effects. And that I've been given my original mentor at Oregon Freeze Dry, Dr. Herb Ashkenazi, gave me the freedom to look at how do you manipulate the lyophilization or freeze drying process to do these things and find markets for these things from non-traditional methods. And that has been my playground of innovation around building and validating our own freeze drying equipment and algorithms to control that. So it's been a 43 years of, I call it building a toolkit, a toolbox that comes from experimenting in different areas of applications because of fermentation explosion of microbial therapeutics before COVID. Then there was 9/11, which caused some unique opportunities for OFD to help in looking at stabilizing microbes and avoiding aerosolization of them. Then it went to expansion of fermentation again and stabilization of bioactivity. And then we came to COVID, which created new opportunities when I started looking at how expensive the supply chain was to deliver um, changing lives. And so then that started some innovation in delivery platforms for uh, lowering the cost of healthcare. And now post-COVID has brought us a few new opportunities that we have to look at. And I look at these as opportunities versus um, down. I'm a positive, forward-thinking person, and I think of these opportunities as increasing my knowledge of how to solve problems, increasing my ability to be a mentor to my colleagues as they grow and go down to their journey. So that's in summary, that's my journey. It's been
Well,
a playground of innovation.
innovation and learning also. So I was listening very
Yes.
carefully to what you said. So every time you had a challenge, it wasn't a challenge as much as it was a learning challenge. It was
Yes.
opportunity to learn something new and build something new and see how you could, like, take your company and the industry forward.
Yes.
That's that's
Getting
that's a great way to look at it, I have to say.
and it also it forces you to, I think, have empathy towards people's problems, whether it be a process that we need to solve to stabilize a product or make it bioavailable. And so that's, I think it's um, I'm lucky. I've been fortunate, and I love the people I work with, and I have a passion for helping others.
Well, please God, that's a beautiful place to be.
Yep.
That's definitely your sweet spot, working in what
Yep.
you do so well, with what you love so well, with the people that you love as well. That's perfect.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so, the next question, we talked about this little bit before the start of the podcast, is so basically, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but how about if you go into a bit more detail, how you create value? Because I'm sure that our listeners here, freeze-dried, they're
Yeah.
thinking that, oh yeah, it's coffee, and it probably has to do with manufacturing, and it's probably not the kind of thing that I think people associate with innovation, but I know you do. So tell me how you create value for your customers.
The our company creates value first because we are not a huge brand yet. We have to create interest. And the interest we can create is because we're uniquely positioned to apply principles of what I call stabilization of form and functionality uniquely. And that's an interest. Then, once the interest is there, you need to have a culture that will communicate ethically and transparently and honestly with empathy to solve their problem, because we've been there. We've met the challenge of so many different market segments to create solutions. And then finally, I think that experience provides the trust to be able to buy in, to understand how we as a contract service organization can be of value to them.
Now, you mentioned before that you work in pharma, your customers are pharma, nutraceuticals, and veterinary medicine as well.
Yes.
So let's say I'm a nutraceutical company and I have my own manufacturing facility. So what do I, how does this work? I buy equipment from
Okay.
you, or I
So
buy process knowledge from you. How does that work?
OFD Life Sciences is the largest North American stabilizer of probiotics. That came about through our initial work with fermentation and looking at growing strains, harvesting strains, cryopreservatives, which are the sugars and additives that stabilize, freezing and lyophilizing or freeze drying to stabilize these powders of bacteria so that when they're rehydrated, they come back to life. We've been doing that since the 80s. And we've developed into a very skilled organization about taking someone's fermentation of a microbial strain that is going to be used for microbial therapeutics or for nutraceuticals. And they can either come to our facilities in Oregon or New York, where we stabilize those in large volumes, huge volumes, but we have the ability to go from very small scale to 1,000 liter scale.
Well, so that means what did they're driving a tanker into your factory.
Well, the beauty, and I think the what speaks to OFD's expertise, both ethically, intellectual property wise, is that we freeze dry probiotic or dietary supplements for competitors. They come to us because we have proven to have the gold standard in retention of efficacy or viability. And so they ship us the frozen material that we then freeze dry under our unique algorithms. There we'll go to AI a little bit. And our algorithms, which drive the controls of pressure, temperature, and time to delicately take the water out and get them to levels of moisture that will be shelf stable.
Well, and then you get a powder and you ship the powder back
Yes.
to the manufacturer.
Yeah, they will capsule or they'll blend various strains, or they go into clinical trials in some cases.
Right. So actually, you don't do the final packaging. You don't get involved with APC and all the, the binders and stuff. So you send them the pure powders, and they take it from there.
Yeah, currently, yes.
Currently, I hear I can see the gears running in your mind.
Mhm. That goes to another question.
Okay, so that we're going to say, hold on to that because we talked
Yes.
before the show. So we're going to hit that question. So this brings us sort of the next question, which I'm dying to ask you, and you don't certainly you don't have to give me numbers, but so how do you so I understand how you create value because you basically freeze dry it, you retain efficacy at the highest possible level, and they pay you for your services, right? So basically,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a contract manufacturing organization.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the business model? How does that work?
Well, we operate as a contract development and manufacturing organization, CDMO,
Right.
and also contract services for the nutraceutical industry. In the value we bring is both in mentorship as to understanding the pathway and the time frame that it takes to get something to market, and our knowledge of our process capabilities has been developed over since the 1963, when our food group was processing materials. So we have this understanding of overcoming hurdles to create solutions in a short amount of time, and shelf stability, packaging capability to prevent loss during storage is one of our key attributes. So we seek definitive paths for winning that particular win-win situation for both them and us.
So so as a CDMO, I understand, in general terms what a CDMO is, but a CDMO is basically you do a contract, they pay you per run. How does that work?
Okay, so our function is varied depending on if the company is entrepreneurial and they have a discovery of a product and they're scaling it up, and they don't have the capacity to do focus groups or clinical trials. We can take that in. We can take their fermented product, or we can take a process and run it and scale it up into quantities that are in freeze dryers that are smaller that fit their particular capacity requirement for this beginning stage, and or if it's for FDA approval for veterinary, animal, or human FDA, then we have the environmental and the quality controls necessary to take it from discovery to scale up to validation in commercial applications after phase 3.
That's great. And I guess that's probably some combination of a fixed price setup fee, and then they pay you per unit of
Yeah,
work that you do.
there is a lot of people backing this up from an infrastructure standpoint, usually quality, because we're looking at different agencies to in the food side, we have kosher halal requirements and organic requirements. In the life sciences area, we have the opportunities to run under dietary supplements or dietary ingredient requirements in CFRs, Code of Federal Regulations, that are governed by both USDA and FDA. And then in the pharmaceutical area, where we do medical devices and active pharmaceutical ingredients and biologics, we have varying organizations that require certain uh, regulatory affairs, and we cover that.
Well, so that's actually that means that your contracts group probably is pretty busy, building the contract for the customer.
Yes, but it's not always easy with intellectual property, but that's something that's because of our experience in that area, and because we have a fairly long history of working with people who both want to innovate as well as we want to innovate in order to get at the lowest cost possible. It's necessary to be collaborative and not greedy.
I get it. No, it's a long-term, it's a long-term
Yep.
situation. Plus, you probably work with a large number of companies. And
Yes.
how many customers do you have? Can you say?
Oh my goodness. Uh we have around right now around 20 to 23, and it's varying. That's that those are the actual commercial customers. We have a funnel that feeds into this, that is filled with a number of companies that they and us are evaluating where we fit and how we can produce something that's equivalent or better than what they have discovered. So we have a pipeline, a funnel of opportunities. We have the in-process scaling up of ones, and then we have a number of companies that we currently do commercial manufacturing for.
And that's probably an ongoing thing, right? So,
Yes, you want that loop.
yeah, of course you got to have that loop. Otherwise, you don't have a running business, right? So,
Yep,
and you want your customers to sell as many products as possible, and that means producing as high. So
yep,
that's a loop for sure.
yep.
So, we talked about this before the show, and you kind of hinted about this. So what are three things you want to do for your customers in the next 12 to 18 months?
Okay. First, we want to solidify our internal innovation into scalable IP. We have a unique, novel delivery platform for sublingual buccal inhalation uh, delivery modes. And it is outside what I call outside the vial. We're not an injectable company. We are a oral company primarily, but we have a technique of making what we call a lyopastille. That's a single dose format in bulk versus in blister sheets or in other packaging formats. This allows us over the next year to look at showing how we can transform the cost of delivery of individual doses to change lives. That's what we want to do.
Incredible.
That's
So it's basically a different way of packaging. It's a more scalable, innovative way of packaging.
Yes. In the area of oral delivery, we have ways of making the dosage to be able to be put under the tongue, in between your cheek and your gum, and it would dissolve and get into the bloodstream. Or it could be, or in some cases, they may want it to go through the gastrointestinal pathway. But neither pathway, there are advantages and disadvantages. Not all molecules are small enough to go into the bloodstream through the oral cavity. So there are ways to allow them to get in with what is called permeation enhancers that will widen the aperture. Look at it, think of it as an aperture for a camera, which may be out of date now. So now you have an aperture that can open up quickly and close,
Right.
because this permeation enhancer allows this molecule to go into the bloodstream. And we've developed this lyopastille to be able to do that. And so now that opens up opportunities for our customers in pain, diabetes, um, neurology, in cases where you don't want to go through the gut system or go through the liver and or have side effects because of the transport through the gastrointestinal area. And more importantly, with some of the innovative immune enhancing drugs that are coming out, where they're triggering our innate immune system to do the job that they're supposed to do versus necessarily adding something synthetic into your system to do it.
Right. So you want to keep it as pure as possible,
Yeah.
and you go and get it to the right hole. So that's the first thing. The second
Yep.
thing you're going to do?
Um, well, this probably pertains more to me as it relates how to the company, and that is mentoring both our engineers and our customers' engineers on how to manipulate a process. Once we understand the start to the finish, we can work backward to give them um, I'll call a design of experiment that would allow us to seek a path that will be the best to preserve their molecule, whether that molecule is a chemical or a biological, or it's a wound dressing that has porosity to it that wants to absorb um, and prevent oxygen and bacteria from getting onto a wound.
Cool. So you have a budget of three. Is there a third thing you want to do in the next year or two?
Yeah, I'm so after 43 years, what I've learned is my energy and drive to assist the company as well as our customers has to have a better balance between family and career. And the more I have a perfect balance, the more my brain and others around me find themselves having better ideas or novel ideas, creatively looking at problems from the molecular level versus the struggle of getting something through the system.
Right, exactly. Which,
So mentorship is probably another thing besides the intellectual property, scaling it up and introducing it, then introducing it to um, new customers and old customers, and then uh, building our quality tech and technical capabilities to take them from discovery through to commercialization. And if we can get through the intellectual property, the discovery, and giving people the trust that we can be a problem solver for them, we have a year ahead of us that will be very exciting.
I know you will, and you've had it's not every day. We talk to people who are you're in biotech or tech bio, and
Yep.
in general, it's not common to see someone who's been chief scientific officer for 43 years
Yeah.
But you've proven that it is not impossible.
Nope.
And
We've
it's
done some very unique things throughout our history that are that have told us that, well, what we thought we could do, we couldn't do, we can do. And that may be from airbags for propellant for airbags to platelets for infusion to stop internal hemorrhaging. And that was through Department of Defense
wow,
with in collaboration with another company.
wow. Wow. So I love it. I love the collaboration, the innovation, the ability to manufacture something which I think we all taken for granted. And but in the end, when you swallow something, it's probably been freeze dried by one of your
By OFD. Yes.
by your whole team, right? For one of your
Yes. Yes.
wow.
We and in addition, we operate on a line that also makes it effective for medical food, where
Ah,
where at some point, I think in the next year, the fusion of medical food may be something we get into that's more important to anything, because now you're using your uh, well, I'll give you an example. uh, we worked with a group out of Vanderbilt University to help create a diagnostic test for uh, gastrointestinal health. Normally, that test requires you to eat a certain number of calories that have been radioactive, and you watch it and you eat those calories. And over a 6 hour period, you get a scan, and it tells where that food is processing and how normal it's processing. The freeze dry aspect came in. We can freeze dry the egg component of that, and we freeze dry the egg component now in a carbon heavy bacteria that is part of that. And so when you eat that, you now have a breath test in 2 hours that will correlate to the gold standard in the gastrointestinal tract. So you breathe, and it tells you how much CO2 you're giving off, and it tells you when the product's through your stomach. So we were approached to help transition that product, and that's a
well,
medical food.
well, well. I know that medical food is really big. I actually only knew this because my father actually passed away at age 100, believe it or not. And last few years he was doing really well, but he was taking some supplements and something which I later heard was called medical food, and they sent me on an errand to get some for him, and I went to
Mhm,
this place just south part of Tel Aviv,
mhm.
and the doctor referred me, and he had some questions. I called the doctor, and they're talking on the phone, and I said, "Well, it's amazing. So, what is this place? This is a store that sells supplements for bodybuilders."
Mhm.
And they were selling this medical, and so I said, what's the deal? And he said, look, you probably think that you know us as a chain of bodybuilder supplement stores, right? So they have like 20 branches all over Israel. um it's called Israel Body. So you probably know us as a store, but I want you to know that we sell a lot more medical food than we sell bodybuilder supplements.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, if you think about it, as we age, bodybuilders have been using creatine for years. And yet, creatine, probably as we grow older, is something that we necessarily need as a supplement. And
Yeah.
that becomes, you can incorporate it in your old cereal, you could incorporate it in a beverage, and keeping that creatine at a high potency is something that freeze drying can accomplish.
I bet you do. I know you do. And creatine is really hot right now on social media. There's so many guys
Yeah,
on X talking about creatine. Bodybuilding guys.
yeah,
Uh, whoa. So that's really taken us full circle all the way from 43 years of innovation and serving as the chief scientific officer for Oregon Freeze Dry to creatine, which is the latest and greatest in food supplements for people today. You can't go anywhere on YouTube or X without someone talking about how great creatine is.
yeah.
Um, um, it's been a pleasure, Walt, having you on the show. Just for our
Thank
readers,
you.
I'll say again, Walt is the Chief Scientific Officer of Oregon Freeze Dry. And my name is Danny Lieberman. I'm the host of Life Sciences Today. And it's just been a pleasure, Walt. It's so cool having
Yes.
someone who's not
L-
doing AI of course, have data in the cloud kind of stuff. Talking about the kind of stuff that we really deal with on a day-to-day basis, like
Yep.
this story with the
Yep.
medical food. The show will go live probably towards the beginning of November. We have a
Okay.
huge backlog. We started 4 months ago, and we've done over 40 shows in less than
Wow.
5 months. The show is on fire. We're part of the Healthcare IT Today platform, which has a huge number of followers. And
Interesting.
John Lynn, who started the show, he reached out to me. We've been friends for a few years, and he said, "Hey, Danny, I know you're a life science guy, but more on the tech side." He says, "Well, how do we start a podcast for life sciences?" I said, "Let's do it." And I think John was probably not surprised, but I was surprised. I'd never done a podcast before, and it just took off. It's been on fire. I have like a waiting list this high,
That's
and
great.
people pitching me to be on the show. So the show was a lot of fun. We're meeting a lot of really interesting people doing amazingly interesting things and great work, and there's just a lot of learning going on. At the end of
Uh,
I think another 6 months or a year, I'm going to have to write a book about all the innovation I've heard.
well, yeah, that's in fact, you're when I first was contacted, and thinking about this, my introspection got to a point where, wow, I have a book here, and people have been encouraging me to chronicle some of the really interesting. Some of them didn't go to fruition because of other aspects, but they gave us the ability to stabilize something or show that we could create something very unique, um, whether it be preserving a nematode so that it could be rehydrated and go back to life versus a microbial.
Wow. To our readers, to our listeners, you can find Walt and his company on OFD.com, OregonFreezeDry.com, correct? And
Yes. Oh, well, OFDLifeSciences.com will go directly to that one. Yes.
OFDLifeSciences.com, and you can find us, Life Sciences Today. We're on all the major podcast channels on Apple and YouTube and Spotify and just an Apple, of course. So look for us.